Alright, guys, welcome back to the Southwick Report. I am your host, TJ Southwick, and oh boy, things are getting spicy here in my home district. In case you don't know, I live in Kentucky District 4. In case you're also unfamiliar, we got a very, very special election going on, specifically involving Representative Thomas Massie. You might have heard of him. He's running for re-election against Trump stand-in Ed Gallrain. And I have been absent for most of it, as you could very much see. I haven't been streaming a whole lot. Computer crashed at one point, had to buy some new memory. And ultimately this one I kind of sat on my ass a little bit. So I've been beating myself up quite a bit. I've done jack shit, which is not a good thing given the stakes that are in this election. Because quite frankly, this primary is going to determine how much influence does a foreign country have over our government. And, well, let's just hope that it isn't proven that how right they are. Because, well, if Massie does lose, hopefully it's a wake-up call to the rest of the nation that, hey, maybe we need to get foreign interest out of our government. Maybe, just maybe. But, until then, we gotta fight our fights. Because ultimately no change is going to happen from DC. It's going to happen in your local communities and your states. Only way you're going to fix that, you got to change people's minds, which is what people like Ron Paul, Dave Smith, and Thomas Massie have done. But you don't even have to be one of them. All the members of Young Americans for Liberty, who I've had a weird history with, they've been fantastic at it. They've gotten politicians elected, and they've gotten students on college campuses to fight for more freedom on their campuses. They've been absolutely fantastic. You should absolutely reach out to them. Just know that unfortunately, given the state of the country right now, I don't think this election is going to change a whole lot. Because let's say Massie does get reelected. He's going to go back in there, and he's going to fight the fight that no other politician will. He's going to try introducing liberty-minded bills that are going to fail. He's going to keep opposing bills that are going to violate the Constitution and violate natural law, and still wind up failing. But he's going to create transparency in the process, which is still a good thing. He's still doing his job. He's still doing what we want him to do. But we also have to step back and realize the only way the country will change is with a whole bunch of Thomas Massies in Congress. And as of now, we're not seeing them. I hope one day we will. But I have a strong feeling that the country is going to go bankrupt before that happens. And we need to be prepared for that. How do we be prepared? Well, once the country does go bankrupt, more than likely the states will start seceding. And far more likely, there's going to be radical change in the governing bodies throughout the country. Whether the United States reunites under a new form of ideology, whether that be socialism, fascism, hopefully libertarianism if we fight for it, but it's getting a little too hopeful at this point. I think what's most likely going to happen though is each state is going to become its own governing body. And I think we're going to end up with a more libertarian based society based in different states. Yeah, you'll have your communist ones, whether that be all the states in the Northeast, whether that be, well, minus New Hampshire, they're doing fine. Maine will probably not be as bad, but states like Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and then in the West, California, Oregon, Washington, they'll all start becoming more communist or socialist. At which point I think you'll start seeing the rural areas of those states begin breaking off from the urban areas because of the ideological differences. But ultimately, we're going to start seeing people split based off of what their principles and their ideologies are. And I think the maps will start changing as well. I don't have a timetable for it, but the only thing I can guarantee is that the current system we have is unsustainable. We have seen this with past empires, that once they get too large, they don't have the resources to keep their empire flowing. It just doesn't work. And I think, I firmly believe that based off of what we're seeing right now, we are going to see a massive shift in ideology. New York City has shown that they've already begun that process with Mamdani, which there's a lot more issues with that going on, and I'm sure I plan on talking about that in a later episode. But focusing on the future, you should absolutely go vote for Thomas Massie in May 19th if you're a registered Republican in the state of Kentucky in District 4. I want to vote for Thomas Massie. However, I didn't realize Kentucky has closed primaries and I'm a registered independent. So, I won't be able to. I'll probably be switching to the Republicans later on because that seems to be where all the libertarians are right now. But until then, we need to start preparing for what lies ahead. Most likely that's going to be a massive shift in ideological thinking throughout the country and a beginning of secession amongst the states. And I do believe the United States is going to dissolve. I don't believe people will follow the Constitution. I believe it's either going to be massively rewritten or it's going to be completely dissolved. It has been one of the greatest documents ever made if we actually followed it. And given how little people are actually paying attention to it, it's not going to last. So, we should ultimately try to resolve everything through peaceful means. I'm not advocating for anything else. But we also need to be ready to defend ourselves and others if the time comes. Whether that be the government gets far more tyrannical than we expected, or when the country dissolves and we start seeing people who are used to depending on the government now diverting into chaos. So, stay alert, stay armed, and stay vigilant. Until then, on May 19th, go vote for Thomas Massie and begin talking with people, anyone you know, and try to talk about the ideals of liberty. Because ultimately, talking is going to be the only thing that will ever get people to consider your side. And for God's sakes, be the peaceful ones and don't be an ass about it. Just don't. You're not going to convert anyone by saying otherwise. But now now that I've gotten that out of the way, I just want to say I'm sorry. I feel like I failed a little bit. I know I'm not a large channel, but I definitely could have done a lot more throughout this election cycle. Whether that be door knocking, whether that have been making documentaries, pushing for Massie. I could have done a whole lot. I failed in that aspect. Yeah, sure, I had a social media presence. If you guys aren't following my Twitter, please do. But I was advocating for Massie all throughout Twitter, and that's all I did. That wasn't good enough. Because, I mean, if you look at Polymarket right now, Massie has a 63% chance of winning right now. Polymarket's usually pretty accurate when it comes to elections. The polls are still neck and neck. And Massie has had multiple dips recently, whether that be through the bullshit essay scandal that happened, or what other methods the deep state has been throwing at him. But I definitely could have done more, and for that I apologize. But in this final stretch, we have to make sure Massie gets back into Congress. He is by far the greatest human being in that building right now. He is kind, he's very courteous, and honestly kind of funny too. And most importantly, we know he's telling the truth. Even if you disagree with him, you know what he's saying is, for the most part, factually accurate. You can just feel that with him. This isn't like someone like Trump, where you immediately are suspicious of whatever he says and you have to fact check him. And it's not like Obama, where he's very deceptive and it's almost blatantly obvious that he's deceptive. No, Massie, he's the only authentic person in that building right now. That is someone we need, someone with authenticity. People have been comparing him a lot to Ron Paul. I don't think that's a fair comparison, because ultimately, Massie is definitely a different person than Paul. Massie has far more energy than Ron Paul did, and I love Ron Paul. He's still one of my political idols right now. So we gotta look at Massie in the light he is in right now. He's a fantastic person on his own. So let's not try to compare him to someone else. He stands on his own ground. And for that, I am throwing my full support behind him. I wish I did it sooner, and I'm sorry I didn't, but I'm throwing it now. Felt like that was obvious, but here it is. So, get out and vote on May 19th for Thomas Massie, and I will see you in the next report. And hopefully then, we'll still have our republic.